Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that sounds simple, but is, well, a really powerful tool for professional efficiency: weekly planning.
Yeah, it's so easy to just write this off as, another to-do list. But the source material we're looking at from Felix Römer's Weekly Planning 101, it really flips that idea on its head.
How so?
It frames that, say, 45 to 60-minute planning session, not as a chore, but as maybe the most critical strategic meeting you have all week.
Okay.
It's where you actually get control back and make sure that all the daily urgencies, the emails and meetings, don't pull you away from your actual long-term goals.
That reframing is so important. So our mission today is really to unpack this blueprint funnel. We
Right.
want to focus on how you can systematically put those big rocks, the priorities that actually move your business or your career forward, onto the calendar first.
Before the small stuff steals all your time.
Exactly. It's like a weekly resource allocation meeting, but you're the only resource.
And that pre-commitment is the key. Because if you've already decided Thursday morning is for that huge project, that's your big rock, and then a meeting request comes in for that same time.
The decision's already made.
The decision is made. You protect that time, you decline, or you reschedule the meeting.
So let's dig into that core promise. We're talking about maybe 45 minutes a week. How does that small investment give you so much back in terms of like control, clarity, and honestly calm?
Well, it's all about forcing that bird's eye view. We spend all day down in the weeds, right?
Yeah.
Reacting to things.
Mhm.
The weekly plan forces you to step back. The source says even just 30 minutes on a Sunday evening is enough to get that perspective. So you start the week with a purpose instead of just, fighting fires.
I have to wonder, though, for someone with a huge workload, doesn't zooming out like that risk making everything feel even more overwhelming?
That's a really good point. But I think the panic comes from seeing the chaos, not from seeing the plan.
Yeah.
The whole advantage of the review is that it starts to structure that chaos immediately. When you zoom out, you can see right away where a big project deadline might clash with all your daily tasks. It stops that overlap. And even better, it lets you block out focus time for the really hard stuff.
And it solves that Monday pilot problem. We all do it, right? Push the hardest tasks to Monday morning thinking we'll have all this energy.
Exactly. The review lets you balance that workload realistically across the whole week.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest strategic win is how it builds a bridge between those big company goals like, say, your quarterly OKRs and the work you're actually doing day to day.
OKRs are a great example. They can feel so abstract, like increased market penetration. So the weekly review is where you turn that into a concrete task.
Precisely. That big abstract goal becomes draft proposal for partner X on Thursday at 10 a.m. It makes the goal real.
Right.
And that clarity is just essential for tracking progress. Suddenly, every hour you plan has a real milestone attached to it. You stop doing busy work and you start doing work that actually moves the needle. That's real control.
Okay, so we get the why. Let's get into the how. We're treating this 45-minute session as like a sacred, protected ritual. What's the very first thing we do when the timer starts?
We start with step one, the mind dump.
Yeah.
This is totally non-negotiable. It takes about 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Okay.
The whole point is just to get every single open loop that's bouncing around in your head, errands, project ideas, calls you need to make, get it all down onto one single list.
Yeah, I know from experience my mind dump is always 50% critical project tasks and 50% remembering I have to, like, buy milk and book a dentist appointment.
It is, and that's exactly the point. You're freeing up your mental RAM. You can't make good decisions about your priorities if your brain is busy trying not to forget something. Once that list is down, you're clear for step two.
Which is alignment and roles. This is a step I feel like a lot of people probably skip.
They do, and it's a mistake. It's not just about listing tasks. It's about making sure your week lines up with where you're trying to go.
So what does the source recommend here?
It suggests you identify your, say, 5 or 6 major roles. Like you might be a team leader, but also an individual contributor, a spouse, maybe a mentor. For each of those roles, you define one major goal for the week.
Can you give us a quick example? What would that look like for someone who's, say, a team leader and an individual contributor?
Yeah, sure. As a team leader, your goal might be finalize prep for Q3 performance reviews. But as an individual contributor, it could be finish the first draft of the Project X proposal.
So it forces you to balance those roles.
It forces balance. It stops you from spending 100% of your time on urgent team stuff and completely neglecting your own deep work.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, on to step 3, which is probably the most famous part of this. Scheduling the big rocks first.
Right. This is where we get into Stephen Covey's first things first idea. You look at your mind dump and your role goals. You pull out your 2 or 3 MITs, your most important tasks, the things that absolutely must get done this week.
And once we have those MITs, we don't just list them. The source says we have to do something with them immediately.
Immediately. They go on the calendar as dedicated time blocks. If you have 3 MITs, you schedule 3 protected slots of, say, 60 to 90 minutes each. Right away.
So you're not just hoping you'll get to it.
You are committing the time. That's
Yeah.
the difference. You're making an appointment with your own most important work.
And the big rocks aren't only work tasks, are they? There's a maintenance component here, too.
Absolutely. The source calls them sharpen the saw activities. Things like health, learning, even just quiet reflection. You have to schedule those too. Your workout, an hour for a course, they get treated like any other non-negotiable appointment.
Because if you don't schedule them...
The work will just expand to fill that time.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Right. So finally, step 4 is filling in the gaps.
Exactly. Only after those big, important blocks are on the calendar do you go back to the rest of your list. You use the empty spaces for the smaller, quicker tasks. And importantly, if you have a massive project, this is where you break it down.
So instead of start huge project, you'd write.
Outline Chapter 1 of project on Tuesday at 2 p.m. You make the next step clear and, achievable. The goal is to remove the friction so you can just start.
This all sounds great, but a plan can fall apart if the system itself is clunky. We have to talk about the tools.
Yeah, and what's really refreshing is that the source has no dogma here. It's not about paper versus digital. It's about whatever tool creates the lowest amount of friction for you.
Let's talk about those trade-offs. For a lot of us, digital tools like Google Calendar or Outlook are just the default.
And for good reason. Their strength is in automation and sharing. Recurring events, syncing across devices, shared team calendars, reminders. They're essential if your schedule depends on other people.
But on the other hand, paper planners have their own kind of superpower, especially for focus.
Totally. Paper is just low friction. You jot it down, it's done. But more importantly, it's a distraction-free zone. You can plan without a notification popping up and pulling you right back into the reactive mindset.
So once you have your tool, you need a method. We've touched on the Eisenhower matrix. How does that fit in during the weekly review?
You use it to sort that big mind dump list you made. You quickly put everything into one of 4 boxes. Urgent and important, that's due first. Important but not urgent, that's schedule.
Those are your big rocks.
Those are your big rocks. Then you have urgent but not important, which you delegate, and not urgent, not important, which you just drop. That sorting process is what spits out your 2 or 3 MITs for the week.
And that leads right into the next method, time blocking, which is how you actually protect the time for those MITs.
Right. Time blocking is key. You're putting 60 or 90-minute blocks on your calendar for deep work. But the really smart way to do it is to also add buffer slots.
Tell me more about buffers. How do they keep the day from going off the rails?
A buffer is just like a 15-minute block of unscheduled time between your appointments or focus blocks. It's insulation. It means that a meeting that runs 5 minutes late doesn't eat into your precious deep work time. If you finish something early, you use the buffer for quick emails. If you run late, the buffer absorbs the delay.
And lastly, once the day starts, you need to actually protect those blocks. That's where things like the Pomodoro technique come in.
Yeah, these are like the guardians of your planned time. A Pomodoro timer, it protects short bursts of focus, maybe 25 minutes, followed by a quick break. It helps you get the work done without just completely draining your brain.
So the weekly plan is the map. But we all know that life happens. A meeting gets moved, a new priority lands on your desk. The source is pretty clear that this whole system fails if you don't do some daily maintenance.
It does. But if you put in the 45 minutes on Sunday, you only need about 5 minutes every evening. The source calls it the evening check-in. It's just a quick 5-minute scan of tomorrow's plan.
Just 5 minutes. That seems almost too simple to be effective.
Well, you're not replanning, you're just adjusting. And the source has this great line, a 5-minute nightly check saves you half an hour of scrambling tomorrow. You're just making sure your first couple of hours are set and protected.
And during that check-in, the golden rule is still to protect the big rocks, anyways.
That rule is unwavering. If a scheduled deep work block is in jeopardy, you move the smaller tasks around it. You don't cancel the important stuff. You always reschedule. You never just drop a commitment you've made to your most important work.
That's a huge mental shift, treating your own planned work like a client meeting.
It is. It's transformative.
So how do we know if it's actually working without, getting obsessed with tracking every single minute in a spreadsheet?
Keep it simple. You want your calendar to show results, not just a bunch of activity. So you track your progress against the MITs you set for the week. And when you complete an MIT that moved a big goal forward, you celebrate it. You train your brain to value real progress over just being busy.
That avoids the trap of just valuing busyness for its own sake.
Exactly. And the final piece of this is protecting your energy. In your weekly review, you have to be honest about your own capacity. If you've scheduled 100% of your time back to back, you're just setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah.
You have to use that planning session to be realistic.
So this deep dive really comes down to one core insight. The power isn't really in the plan itself, but in the consistency of doing the planning ritual. It's that 45 minutes that builds a rhythm.
Yeah, a rhythm that leads to clarity. It forces you to get the right things done, not just everything. You're building buffers to protect what matters.
And that time-saving metric is pretty powerful. A consistent 5-minute adjustment each day makes the whole week calmer and more accurate.
It really does. If you can prioritize protecting your focus time over reacting to everything else, that's when you get real professional control. Respect your own capacity, and, the future version of you who actually meets your goals will thank you for it.
We really hope these insights from Felix Römer help you map out a less stressful and more productive week. Thank you for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast. We encourage you to subscribe for more insights on the future of work. And if you want to read the full source material, Weekly Planning 101, the link is right there in the show notes.